Cool. So I also
I guess
see
it's
that.
Sorry, go ahead, Diego.
No, I was gonna say I see that Mitchell, Michael, and Gunter are here already.
Mhm.
We'll just give another minute, then I'll go ahead and get started here. So just so you guys know a little bit on the agenda today, I'm going to spend the first probably 20, 30 minutes, depending on how long it takes me to run through these, going through some of the tools that TI offers to help you guys design whatever it is. It's really a lot of stuff that I wish I knew in college, because it would have made a lot of my classwork much easier, especially when it gets to senior design and that kind of stuff. And then in the second half, we'll jump into a little more of what a TI is, what we really do, kind of what our roles are and what we focus on. And then in the end, we'll open up to breakout sessions for whoever wants to join to kind of get a little more personal time. And we'll go through and talk about our personal experiences and kind of what we've done. So on that note, let's see if I can just present it in an easy way. Nope, that's not what I want. Cool. So I think I'll go ahead and get started now on the tools section. So here's kind of the agenda of what we're going to talk about. But before we jump into that, I want to make sure you guys know what TI actually is. A lot of people think calculators. I personally thought calculators before I worked here. But really what it is, it's semiconductors. So we sell hundreds of thousands of chips or different chips at billions of units a year across multiple customers. And what our jobs really are is to help those customers design their systems to be more efficient, cheaper, better, or whatever it is they want. All of us here work in the sales capacity or in the applications capacity. So what that means is we talk directly to customers every day. We're at their sites, if we can visit them, or on WebExes, and we're really just going there to show what's the latest and greatest from us, understand their requirements and how their systems work, and be able to pitch to them ideas for devices, for systems, for really anything that we can help with to get more influence on their designs. So from that perspective, you can see that we do all sorts of things. And in order to help them be able to design these products, we created a whole list of tools that we use for them to be more efficient or make it easier for them. The way I think about these is really into 4 buckets. First one is if you need to go learn more. So there's a lot of tools we have listed here, and I'll share these with you guys afterwards. These are all hyperlinks that go for you to go learn more about something, whether that's how a buck converter works, or you really want to understand how would you pick an op amp, or what is an op amp, to cookbooks that let you type in a couple of parameters and it tells you how to design your system or parts to pick, to blogs that are just conversation topics that you can go into and really give your comments or jump in and help someone else that's struggling. And our factory folks will jump in there as well to help with some of that. Following that is really the architecture phase. So that's where we focus on end equipments. We focus on reference designs. There's a lot of topologies you can go look at for power. There's a lot of stuff around functional safety that is coming out now that we have collateral for, and our EVMs. Right? You want to go try a buck converter that TI makes? We have an EVM for it. You can literally get a board or buy a board from us. It'll have everything stuffed in. You can use that in a project of yours, or you can go poke around, make sure you understand how it works. It's really up to you guys there. Once you've architected your system, and we've really spent time there, you go into selecting your parts. And that's really where the website first started growing. Through parametric search is level 1. You can go in and type in all the specs you want, and it'll give you the part. But we've gone beyond that and created something called WebBench, which I'll talk more in a little bit. But that's something you can go in and say, for example, 12 volts in, 3 volts out, 2 amps. Give me a solution. It'll give you the whole system with schematics, with layouts, everything ready to go for you to go test yourself. And in the end, it's really implementation. So that's where a lot of the same tools will carry to that, but it's also simulations, it's filter designs, it's using Code Composer to go program in MSP430, it's using E2E to go ask questions. There's just a lot there. So like I said, I will send this to guys afterwards and you can go poke around all of these, but I kind of handpicked a few that we could spend a little more time to show you kind of how I've used them and what's really useful for me. The first one is actually the trainings page, just training@ti.com. There actually is a lot of really good content there. It's not just something we put out for the sake of putting out. PSDS, which you'll see on the top left there, that is something we do every 2 years and is one of the biggest industry forums for power. So we have a team where all they do is create power solutions. After 2 years of doing that, they come up with a lot of topics and a lot of issues they've seen, a lot of trends they see. So they will do a training every 2 years where they'll travel around the world and give those presentations. This year, of course, it was a little different, so we did it online. If you go to that website, you can actually find all those trainings. And they go from, basic conversations around different bug topologies to really complicated ideas around some of our latest and greatest parts. Another one that I would want to highlight here is the Precisions Lab on the bottom right corner. That is great. Honestly, better than every op-amp class I took in college. It goes from everything to like the basic level of what is an ideal op-amp to how do you determine slew rate or how do you check stability. It's really very in-depth, and it's been curated every year. More stuff gets added and cleaned up by all our guys who've been doing this for 20, 30, some 40 years. But it doesn't just stay to that. Once you go there, you'll find a million things. Weird technologies that we've put out over the past few years, like millimeter wave, or you want to go talk about Cap Touch, which is capacitive touch screens with MSP430. There is a video teaching you how to do that too. So don't hesitate, go look there. There is something that can help you in your class somewhere. Once you've learned what it is you want to do, you have an idea of our project, you want to go work on it, we have what we call end equipment reference design pages. So what these really are, it's a place where, let's say you want to work on, I'll pull these out so you guys can see what it looks like in the page. You got to assign a project, or you want to work on a telematics unit for a car or an analog gauge cluster. You can go here, and once you click on the use case or the end equipment you're trying to make, you'll be presented with essentially a block diagram that shows you how we've seen a lot of customers do this, how they go about and architect the system. And once you click on a subsystem block, it'll give you reference designs that include multiple TI parts, or it'll also give you parts that we commonly see used in that. Within there, you'll also find a lot of app notes, selection guides, white papers, all sort of documentation on the devices, use cases, and architecture around each of those reference designs and equipment. This is something we've actually spent a lot of time on over the past few years, or 2 years or so. And there are hundreds of things on here that go from the very complicated ones that I happen to choose for this one to smartwatches, to a thermostat. It's literally any sort of use case you can think of. There is something related to it on our website there. So the one thing we mentioned within those, outside of the big giant blocks, when you go to the little sections, so let's say you're talking about the display subsystem, we have reference designs that show you how we would make a display subsystem with our latest parts. So that could include power, that could include the data converters, that could include any sort of signal chain that's needed around it. Everything is there, and it gives you schematics, it gives you layouts, there's performance data, there's the actual design files if you're willing to use one of the tools that we have available for that as well. And these are done by a team we have that focuses on systems, not on devices. So these guys live and breathe these things, and I bring them to my customer meetings all the time so they can see what my customers are doing and teach me what they're doing. And I get to teach them what my customers are doing so that this collateral gets even more relevant as time goes on. So now that you have an architecture, you know what kind of system you're looking for, you have some reference designs you can play with, usually going to go look for a part. This is what you get greeted on when you go look buck converters at TI. You'll get a little box kind of like this one or any of these other ones, depending on what you're looking for. You can put in your specs you're looking for, and it'll pump out some parts. It will actually sort the list, not just on the best part based on your spec, but also on what we're seeing other customers pick and what we think makes sense going forward, since our devices are always changing and the processes and technologies that we use are always changing. So this is definitely an easy way to get started, but let's say you don't want to just pick a buck converter part. You want the full system solution, something you can just go and run with for now. That's when you actually click on our product, we will give you some of that information. You will see reference designs on there. You will see simulations and all of that on there. All the models you need to go run in different programs, the technical documentation, all of it is there. But that's still not enough. There's still times where you want to have the full solution that's specific to you. And I think that's where we spent a lot of time on something I want to talk to you guys about, which is Webbench. So what Webbench is, it's a free online tool that allows you to design your power supplies for switching regulators. If you're not familiar with that, there are two types of power regulators, the ones that are linear and the ones that are switching. Depends on your use case, but most of the time you're going to want a switching regulator because of the efficiency. And they are kind of complicated. So there's a controller part that we will sell, but you'll need capacitors, resistors, inductors, all the passives around that. This gives you all of that in one place. So you'll come in and type in the voltages you want, the current you want out, and we'll give you a full solution. Once you click and select your solution, you will get all sorts of information from that. You will get your schematic, you will get your layout, you can do some thermal analysis if you look on the top left here, where you're running air from different places and seeing how that's behaving. You will get the full BOM out of it, which is the bill of materials, with the capacitors we recommend, the inductors we recommend, all the resistors. You'll get efficiency curves, you'll get transient curves, you get all the operating values. It is a lot of data that it will give you. And it does take some getting used to be able to not feel overwhelmed. But once you do this once or twice, you'll see that it really does give you the answers. This is something that I wish in particular I had in college, right? I had multiple projects where I had to go make a power supply for something and sat there trying to think how I would even do that. I wasn't familiar with what a buck converter was or what a boost converter was. This would be awesome if I knew back then. I can type in, it gives me my solution. From there, I can go research more about the part, about the technology, about the passives and how they behave. You can go and change the parts as well. So let's say you're curious on what happens if you change the inductor or change the output capacitance. You can do that on here, and it'll give you that simulation data. It'll give you all that result. And if you don't like what it does, you can also export it to something else. There are multiple other tools you could use to get more information as well. So as you're doing the simulations here, you can do, like I mentioned, the loads and transients and all that, and actually edit what those tests are as you're doing them. A good thing here is that these tests actually run on our servers, not on your machines. So that's good, because especially under thermal simulations, that would bog down your computer a lot. But all online, so no real concerns on that anymore. Another interesting part of it is that it can actually save and share everything. So you don't have to work on this alone. You can create a project, send it to someone else that you're working with, and they can go edit it and send it back to you, and essentially have that collaborative environment all online without having to go deal with the hassles of really getting this information back and forth. That being said, it doesn't do everything, right? There is more, and there are more tests you're going to want to run. And there are other parts outside of power that we sell and you want to go make designs on or do schematics on. In the past, Tina was what TI worked with. You might have heard from PSpice or LTSpice as other options there. TI has now changed and we're moving towards PSpice, really because we know a lot of our customers use that and they use Cadence for schematic and layout in Monte Carlo, and really making sure they have all of that data in one place. So we've heard them, and we're moving towards that now as well, where you can actually get access to Cadence for free. Of course, it's a trimmed down version that kind of requires you to use more TI parts, but it is Cadence. It does allow you to import and export into other Cadence softwares. That makes it very easy to work with a lot of the companies. Since this is new for us, there is a lot of resources as well. And this actually comes from training at TI as well, or the TI PSpice page also has it. And from there, you can go and look at how this actually works, how customers have used it, or how we use it. There are a lot of tests you can run on this. So if you've gone through some of the analog design classes, you've probably had to do a Bode plot, or you've had to sit there and figure out the transient requirements for something, or make sure that an op amp is stable. That's what we would use this for. You still do that as a professional engineer all the time, but you don't do a paper study. You sit down, put the circuit on PSpice or Tina, simulate it, and you get your answers. The last big tool here that is also very nice is the E2E forums. What E2E forums are, it's a place where anybody can go and post a question, and our factory experts are responsible for answering those questions. So it's a way that anybody can get direct access to TI support. And you will see questions on there that range from the very complicated to the very basic. A very good resource to look for blogs on what's new in the market. What are we pushing out? What are we really focusing on and think that's great from us? But also to ask those questions and to get engaged with TI folks early and get an idea of what it's like to actually do some of our job. Because of what people do in E2E is not that different from what we do out here in Seattle. It's just a matter of size of customers, right? So the customers that are going to be on E2E are people that don't necessarily drive that much money for us. So they don't have the specialized support that we give from Seattle, but they still have the TI support and they still have the network to go help them. And even myself, I use this all the time. Usually when I get a question from a customer that I have no idea what I'm doing, the first step is go check E2E. Go make sure I check if someone's asked this before, if there's something related to it that can help me here. And it's been very valuable. And I've done my fair share as well of going there and helping people. People will ask questions. If it's something I know I'm familiar with or I've worked with in the past, I'll come in and give those answers to them to get that moving quickly. So any questions on kind of all the tools that we've run through? I know it's been pretty dense. I will take that as a no then.
I'm sorry. Diego,
somebody asked whether we can post some of those links out to those tools, which we can do.
I will be sharing the slides with Grace afterwards, and the hyperlinks are all here. So you guys can just go through it, poke around, whatever it is that makes most sense for you.
All of those will be posted on the IEEE website, so you'll all have access to those.
Sweet.
Diego, can you repeat the question, please?
He just asked if anyone had any questions.
Okay, yeah, no, continue.
No worries. I do see what appears to be some questions on text, but I can't click on it.
That was just one of us saying that we will also have the video of your presentation posted on our website for everyone.
Sounds good.
All right, Diego's going to be YouTube famous.
Cool. So that was the first section of what we wanted to talk to you guys about. From here on, it's really talking a little more about what it is to work at TI and what it is that we actually do on a day-to-day basis. So let me bring up those slides. There we go. So to open up some branding, so you guys know what we actually look like. Texas Instruments in general, as you guys know, now it's really about semiconductors. So you can see here on the board she's holding, that's an example of, I'm not sure if it's a reference design or an EVM. Looks like an EVM. And that little black box right there is what we sell. If you actually look at a system, there are lots of them. But I'm going to pass over to Michael Norsha now to take over a little bit.
Hey guys, my name is Michael Norsha. I'm the regional sales manager with TI. Diego, do you have the intro slides? Otherwise, I can just share from my screen.
I thought we were doing the intro slides once we break out because there's a lot of us.
That's probably fine. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Michael Norsha. I'm a regional sales manager with TI. And I've been with the company a few years now. What I want to give you guys here is just a view into what is it that we really do, what markets do we play in, and what do we think is important in our strategy overall. So just to kind of look at 2019, it was $14 billion. That's the size of TI. That's the largest analog semiconductor company in the world. Not quite as big as the Intels that you guys may be familiar with, largely digital company. But you can see that the majority of the revenue that we bring in a given year, this one, 2019, is analog, about 10 billion of the 14. If you look at what our key markets are, automotive and industrial are really where the focus is in investment for TI right now. And so there's been a shift to focus on our automotive customers and our industrial customers, make sure that we're playing and developing new parts into every single space that we can. Again, with that focus on automotive and industrial. We break out into a couple of other divisions of how we catalog our business. Personal electronics being like your cell phones or your laptops, communications equipment, big, wireless towers, and then enterprise systems being like a data center type of application, server farms, that kind of thing. Automotive, I think, pretty self-explanatory, electronics and cars, and then industrial being factory automation, robots. If you've seen videos of the robots that drive around the Amazon warehouses, that is the type of application we'd be playing in. What do we bring to the table as far as, why do our customers want to do business with us? 30,000 employees worldwide with a focus in Americas and Asia Pacific. We also bring to the table 80,000 products, the largest analog portfolio in the business. One of the other big things down here that you'll notice, 14 manufacturing sites worldwide. That's a key advantage that TI does hold over some of our top competitors, as we own most of our production. And of course, TI.com, we put a lot of emphasis on building out our website to be user-friendly, as hopefully Diego illustrated in his earlier presentation. And just looking around you, it's not super common, if you're not super familiar with what TI does, to kind of look around you and think that we're in every single electronic device that you probably come in contact with. But I dare you to open up any of your electronics and try to find one that doesn't have a single TI part on it. Do that at your own risk. I'm not going to reimburse you for the cost. But some of our key customers in the region, like I mentioned, robotics are pretty big for us. Test and measurement, like your multimeters that you use in the lab. Medical devices, one of our customers coming out with a rapid COVID tester early next year. And of course, personal electronics, Amazon's definitely in Seattle. You can put two and two together. The main thing to take away from here, though, is we play in pretty much everything. And so there's opportunity at TI to get involved in each of those spaces on the product side, on the system side, like Diego mentioned, they develop several of our tools, or on the customer support side, which is what most of us here are doing.
All right, looks like it's my time to shine. Just to make sure you guys can hear me, correct?
Yeah, thank you, Macy.
Cool. Just wanted to double check. Thank you, Michael. So at TI, we produce tens of billions of chips a year. That's split across 70,000 different products that are being distributed to 100,000 different customers. So pretty wide reach. It's pretty crazy. We offer a variety of roles to help develop those parts as well as distribute them to their customers. And in just general, work together and mesh throughout the product lifecycle to design, produce, and sell our parts. So the slide here is to encapsulate the overall product lifecycle and where different roles you can find at TI are going to be. So for instance, with product definition, your systems, apps, and product engineers are going to work with a packaging engineer to help define a part, excuse me. So the systems, apps, and product line say they're going to work with someone like me, who's a field applications engineer who works with a customer, say for instance, like a Microsoft or an Amazon, someone like that, to say, hey, Microsoft's really interested in this part and they would really like to see us design it. Well, we have communications with those engineers and they try and see, okay, feasibly, can we do that with the resources we have today? And they work with a packaging engineer to see if they can fit that technology into one of the packages that we work on. From there, they also work with a process engineer to see if we have the right process technology to reach the capabilities that that part is required for. From there, we move on to silicon design. Once everything's ironed out about the actual process technology and the packaging and everything to actually make the part, you start working with analog design engineers who will be working on the microelectronics level to build out the functionality of the die that sits within the IC that actually does all of the functionality. And then software engineers are going to be the ones who code and add any programming that's needed for, say, the memory or any sort of one-time programmable functionality that's supposed to be in the die itself. After that, you get to the production release. So from there, it's a lot of test and validation of the part. Is this going to work within the confines that we have it in now? Because of course, as you guys probably know very well at this point, not everything is a spherical cow in a vacuum. There are obviously going to be some realistic issues that you're going to have to face, and that's a big part of their role. And then from there, product quality and manufacturing are going to be involved in the actual manufacturing at scale or to production for a release to market part. From there, for promotion and support, there are field applications engineers like myself who are going to be working with that customer directly on supporting any technical questions they may have about the part itself, as well as potentially working with them on schematic and layout reviews of that nature, just to make sure everything is designed properly. Product marketing is going to be a big part of that aspect too. We saw them at the beginning with product definition. They are the face of the product line that works with us in the field to make sure that we're making the right parts, as well as we're selling them to the right people. And then of course, technical sales representatives who are going to be my counterpart more on the business end with making sure that we are aligned to a price, as well as working on volumes, business opportunities, and making sure that we are hitting annual plans. Next. Thank you. So what we're looking for. So out of all of those roles, we have a lot of degrees that can fit within those. Electrical engineering and computer engineering are very much going to be pretty consistent through most of those roles, of course, but there's going to be a lot of roles for, say, chemical, industrial, and mechanical engineers as well, too. I know a lot of chemical engineers that I've spoken to in the manufacturing side of things, and they do a lot of very interesting and fun things when it comes to the actual like working of manufacturing. I won't go too deep or ramble. And then of course, finance, accounting, management, human resources, facility. These are all things that you need to make sure that your company is running smoothly as possible. Encouraged. So I see we have a question. Is it encouraged to have an MBA with an engineering degree? I mean, it definitely doesn't hurt. I personally just have a bachelor's in electrical engineering, but as Michael has just answered, not required. If that's the route you want to go down after, say, maybe taking on the role, that's absolutely encouraged. And if I remember correctly, there are certain programs within TI that help support that if you are a full-time employee. but as Michael said, not needed. Any questions? So are you set up for smaller hobbyist runs of boards? SparkFun just announced ALC board design. So that actually got cut off for me, that last bit. So let me try and bring that up. ALC board designing tool, but it has a $1,000 production run cost on top of a significantly marked up component cost. So this, when we talk about manufacturing, we're not talking about printed circuit boards themselves, but the actual ICs that you would be putting on printed circuit boards. So what we're developing is the actual die that sits within the package for the IC that is actually the microelectronic circuits that make up that IC, and then the package itself that it's going to sit in that you actually see with the black square and the leads. So we do not we do not have a manufacturing process at scale for PCB design. You would use, as you point out here, a supplier like SparkFun or another PCB design house for those kind of applications. Any other questions?
Or if you really want to get into the grunge of it, you know, you could just breadboard it out with the adapters on our on the website for our EVMs.
Hey, but
Yeah.
Mark mentioned that he's a fan of the launch pads. That is something we offer. If you're wanting to just play around with TI microcontrollers, you could pick up a launch pad. I think they're less than $100. I want to say they're even $50.
And less, $20. There's some low cost launch pads, and you can extend those with booster packs to give it particular flavors of applications, front ends, and such.
So depending on where you're going with that question, if you want to design something and have somebody manufacture it, Macio's feedback addresses that. If you're just looking to get your hands on a board and prototype some software on a microcontroller, yeah, we definitely have the tools that can help you out with that.
Yeah.
Our club actually has a few extra laying around. So if we ever get to get back on campus, if you stop by our office in Dana, we'll be happy to hook you up with a launch pad.
Nice.
Thanks, Grace.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. So I'm John. I'm a field applications engineer out here in Seattle, and I'll be talking just kind of at a high level what TI has to offer for new college grads entering what we call our rotation programs. So Maceo kind of highlighted all the different job functions that we have at TI. And if you were to come into TI just after you graduated either with your bachelor's or your master's degree, there's a bunch of different roles that you could be hired into where rather than just being put into a full-time job right off the bat, you'll actually spend 3 months to 6 months, depending on which rotation program you come into, in one job role working with one group. And then we'll take you into a different job role for the next 6 months that's probably complementary. It has some overlap, or maybe it's someone that you'd work with quite a bit in your final destination job role. And then you do that for another 3 months to 3 to 6 months. And, different programs have different links associated with them, but it's a really good way to give you the opportunity to explore the entire company and see all the different types of jobs that TI has to offer and the different career paths that are available within TI. And so, I encourage you guys, we're going to have some breakout sessions after. I encourage you guys to, ask about the rotation programs and ask the people that are in your breakout sessions about their specific experiences with TI. But, at a high level, these are kind of the tracks that you can get hired into that are available on TI.com. So there's an applications engineer rotation program, which is a very customer-facing role where you're debugging customer problems. Technology and manufacturing, that focuses more on the manufacturing side that Maceo spoke to. Then there's also, product validation and test engineering's rotation programs, again, kind of on that, validation, testing, making sure that the ICs function properly and everything there. Then there's also, analog design, where you're actually working at the transistor at the gate level to design the ICs that we put into production and we sell to customers every day. And then there's also the embedded processing software engineers. So if you're more focused on, the software side, that might be something that you'd consider, working with microcontrollers, writing code, all that kind of fun stuff. And then we also have tracks for IT. So if you have like a degree that's kind of in that space, there is a track there. And then finally, these last two roles at the bottom, the product marketing engineer and then the field applications and technical sales engineer, these are much more customer facing roles, right? The product marketing engineer will work with a single product group. So for example, our MSP 430 product group has product marketing engineers that talk to all of the customers that TI supports worldwide about MSP 430s. But conversely, we have field apps and technical sales engineers, which is a lot of the folks that are on the call today, where we sit local to a region. All of us are local to Seattle or to the Northwest, I guess I should say, for Matt out there in Spokane. But we have field apps and technical sales engineers, and we work directly with our customers every single day. So we go in and get very, very well versed in what it is our customers are trying to design and support them throughout TI's entire portfolio of those 80,000 parts that Diego was talking about earlier, or Michael mentioned earlier. So again, these are just some of the exciting opportunities we have for the new college grads. Now on the next slide, we also offer engineering internship opportunities over the summer. And again, they kind of fall into the same roles. So if any of those sound interesting, if you have any questions, again, definitely encourage you to join a breakout session and ask lots of questions. Happy to dive into those.
All right, I am Matt Crum. I manage our relationship with Amazon Web Services and their design partners globally. So I've been in this role for about 16 years, or I've been with TI for 16 years, been in this particular role for 7. And I would say that I think I got this slide because out of all things, I'm competitive to a fault. And so when I saw competitors on here, I jumped at the chance to talk to this one. But essentially what we're saying here is that TI has a scale advantage that others that we compete with do not. Without naming names and just giving general examples here, if you look at another semiconductor supplier called competitor A, they do a $1.4 billion of annual revenue. And they have, say, 400 salespeople in their worldwide sales organization. And on a typical board, they might have 2 ICs that they could compete for when an engineer is designing a product. Competitor B, slightly larger, maybe twice as large, $2.9 billion, 500 salespeople. They've got a few more parts that they can go after. If these are the same board, then maybe A and B both compete for this socket, but then B goes after all these other ones, these other 4 here. So they've got 5 parts they can go after. TI literally has the broadest portfolio of any semiconductor supplier in the world. And at $13 billion, we support a sales force of 1,700 people. And so that's technical sales representatives and FAEs, field applications engineers. But if you look at the size of the sales force and compare it to the number of chips that we ship, the amount of revenue that we can go after, and the number of chips we can go after on every board, we actually have 4 to 5 times more people, but 10 times the opportunity and the revenue to go after. And that means there's more revenue per person. So we're responsible, as an individual, I'm responsible for more revenue than my counterpart at, call it Maxim or Analog Devices or Infineon, one of those guys. Not only that, but just the fact that we've got such a broad portfolio means that I'm ADHD. I'm always looking for what else is there, what's next. I'm always getting distracted by something else. And this gives me plenty of opportunities to explore my ADHD to the fullest. There are tons of chips to go after, tons of opportunities. And if you take it from a system level perspective and sell the customer the entire system, you can engage with your customer on a completely different level than you can if you're just going in to try and sell them the latest and greatest FET, because that's the core of your portfolio. I've got all of these parts. The reference designs Diego showed you are all based around TI parts. We can take that engagement and that relationship with our customers to a very different level than any other semiconductor supplier can. What does a day in our life look like? I think this is probably good to explore in a breakout session where we can give you some other examples. This is a very generic example of what it might look like, but let's say that we uncovered a new project with one of our customers yesterday in a meeting at the end of the day. So we're going to come into the office and sit down as a team and do a project kickoff and talk about what are all the TI parts that we could potentially help this customer with. Spend an hour on that, and then there's a customer follow-up call at 11 o'clock, and so we're going to spend some time at 10 as a team, whoever's attending that customer call, talking about what do we want to accomplish, who's going to present what does this look like, how's this meeting going to go, what's the best case outcome, and plan ahead so that the meeting runs smoothly. Jump into that meeting. If we did our work at 10, then the customer call goes smoothly, we win a lot of business, and we move on to the next thing. Lunch, it might be lunch in the office. Really great office culture, actually, in Seattle, when we can actually go to the office. It's been a while, but it might be lunch with the office. It might be lunch with the customer, engineer. It might be lunch with a sourcing person at your customer. Nevertheless, you've got lunch, and then we have opportunities for training. Either that's independent training and research, or maybe it's a training that one of our product lines is hosting. And then perhaps at 2 o'clock, you go to the customer's lab to do some debug work with them side by side. 3 o'clock, product line call. Product line might be MSP 430, talking about the new latest and greatest boards that they have, launch pads that they have available to tinker with. And then there's always time to get some coaching and mentoring from your manager. So just wanted to include that as well. Very open door policy at TI with management. We want you to be successful. We want you to learn. We want you to ramp fast. And we know that means having more experienced people and management available to you to mentor you and to answer your questions and to help you.
I think just spend a little bit of time on one of the key rotation programs that John mentioned. A lot of us happen to go through. It's now called the FAST rotation program. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical sales track, which is the one that I went through when I started at TI back in 2016. So the sales track is made up of 3 different rotations, which you can kind of see here. The first one, you'll go through a field sales office like the one that we have over in Bellevue. And you'll spend a few months there kind of shadowing somebody in the role that you will eventually take on. So for me, I went to Indiana and spent some time working with the technical sales people there in Indiana for a few months to kind of get my feet under me. What does this role actually do on a daily basis? You don't really get a feel for it until you spend the time doing it yourself. And then next, you'll go into a product marketing rotation. So one of the other things that John mentioned for us, the product marketing engineers. And in here, you'll spend some time working with the guys that are developing the next best, the brightest new parts coming out of TI's new portfolio, and figuring out how to engage with customers on those parts. So those 2 pieces really give you a view of the 2 opposite ends of a funnel, where in field sales, we'll try to take the whole portfolio and bring it to a small group of customers. The product marketing teams will take a small group of parts in the portfolio and bring them to the whole world's customers. Finally, in the sales track, you will spend a little bit of time in sales operations, and there's a few options here. Typically, you'll go through the pricing teams to learn about how do we decide how much our parts cost, and how do we decide what to tell customers you're going to pay for the parts. Other options, maybe you'll spend some time in sales operations where you're working with a group of people trying to figure out how are we going to take all of our customers direct and minimize the amount of complexity that it takes to go and buy a TI part. So lots of options there, but that's really the technical sales track in a nutshell.
Cool. It looks like it's me again, and I've transitioned to my earbuds. So I hope I confuse YouTube's audio algorithm. So the counterpart to what Michael was just talking about in the fast track is the field applications track, which I went through about almost 3 years ago, or yes, 3 years ago now. So the first rotation is through the field sales office. It's very similar to the 3-month rotation that the technical sales representatives go through, except I shadow a field applications engineer, while, as Michael said, a technical sales rep will be shadowed by someone in that aspect of the fast track. For me, I actually went through this office, so the Seattle Field Sales Office, and followed very closely along with other FAEs in the office, just seeing what they did account to account, understanding their different styles and how they approach the job to gain a better understanding of what I could take out of that to make my own style when I eventually deployed. I also took on some individual projects and roles, and some of those varied from trying to figure out what parts would work best for an entire systems level proposal for, say, a drone, which was pretty fun. And some of them had to do with being in lab. For instance, I did a lot of work with op amps and things like that. After that 6-month rotation, I did a 6-month rotation in systems engineering and marketing. So that was back in Dallas. So this team is more of our traditional systems team, where they work on the TI reference designs that you see online. So they'll build an entire system to show off a certain functionality depending on what is needed for that section of the market. For instance, the SEM team I was with was test and measurement. The design I actually built, which I can link here or talk to you guys about a little bit later, was a high current battery tester, which allowed you to characterize the quality of a battery during its initial charge, which was pretty challenging if I'm being completely honest, but it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of direct applications experience that is very useful to me even today in my job. So for the American field sales offices, so this is a map of every location that is in the United States. When, say, for instance, you go through the rotation program, it's not guaranteed that you'll be going to, say, one or the other. Like, for instance, if you really want to be in Bellevue, Washington, our human resources team will work very hard to see if that's something we can fit you into, but it's not a necessary guarantee. And then, of course, based off of the field office you're in, that's going to be a different region. So your account structure and some of the other processes in day-to-day is going to be a little different as well. Any questions on anything that I just brought up?
I think just one other comment, Maceo, is that one of the big things in the rotation program and deploying as a full-fledged technical sales or field applications person at TI is that we'll look for people that have a certain degree of geographic flexibility. Like Maceo said, we'll try to put you into one place, but one of the things that really attracted me to TI was the opportunity to move around and see a little bit of the country, work in a whole bunch of different offices before, kind of settling into one spot. So, if that sounds up your alley, I would encourage you to look closer at the FAST program.
I'll concur. While it was never my intention, I did move 6 times in my first 10 years with TI all over the country. And so,
yeah,
not the norm. And honestly, I wouldn't encourage it. But if that's something you want to do, then by all means, the opportunity's there.
Speaking of that case with location, because of this situation we're in, or because of this new modality, has there been any changes to that? Like, everything's online now, so is there any opportunities there?
If anyone, Michael, go ahead.
Why don't we jump to Matt?
You want to jump to me?
No, Matt H. Other Matt.
Too many Matts. I was only Matt around for the longest time, and then Matt H came around and ruined it.
Diego, do you want to flip to my slide, or do you guys just want to give me my anecdote and perspective? Okay, that works.
Well, I think before we jump in, Matt, just to answer the question, really, there is change, but we expect that that's going to go away eventually. So I still want to be at my customer, and I want to be around my team members because we are meeting all the time. For now, it's on WebEx. So some of us have taken the time to go spend a month or so somewhere else. We are flexible with that, but in the future, we expect that people are going to have to go back to the offices at least part of the time.
So are you in that situation right now where it's like all online, you communicate with your team members online? Okay.
Now everything is online. We're not actually allowed to go talk to customers from my understanding, unless we have a really good reason in person. But that doesn't mean we can't use WebEx with them or call them or email them all the time. So we're still engaged in talking all the time, but all online for now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Antonio, I think what you'll see is there's definitely a lot of flexibility right now, but our role at the end of the day is to be in front of customers, be in their labs, help them, right beside them, debugging things in their labs. As a salesperson, there's a certain aspect of when you're presenting something to a customer, being able to read and interpret body language, and you're missing that in a remote setting. And so when things go back to normal, there is an expectation that you're spending time on site with your customer in both of those types of capacities. And so from that standpoint, I don't think long term that the ability to say if you love Pullman and you want to stay there, we do have a big customer there in Schweitzer Engineering Labs, who I've spent a lot of time with. But maybe Pullman probably isn't the best place to expect to stay long term with TI. Just using that as the example.
So I believe the way that you talk about communication and your customers, right? So I believe when you have a intern or like a potential intern right in front of you, I believe you not only look for their technical skills, but you also look for sometimes their soft skills, like how do they communicate with other people. Between those two, like technical and communication, which one would you value more in your opinion?
I'm going to cut you off real quick. We are a little bit pressed for time. That's a great question to ask in the breakout rooms later, but if we can let them finish their presentation. Thanks, Antonio.
No problem. Sorry.
We'll have time with them more one-on-one.
Yeah, and we'll definitely jump into that one. I personally really want to talk to that one because I had an intern this summer, but we'll jump into that a little later. Matt, H.
Russ, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Russ.
was gonna say. Okay.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Hi, this is Russ Bird with Texas Instruments. I've been at TI for 17 plus years now. The first 17 years, I was an analog integrated circuit design. And now I've switched to analog field applications engineering role. Just want to take a few minutes to talk to you all about the TI Diversity Network. This is very important to TI. Our goal is to provide an inclusive environment at TI where every person can thrive. We actually want all of our employees, no matter their background, their work styles, their ideas, their differences, their nationality, no matter where you come from, we want everyone to feel empowered, to be who they are, be true to themselves, and do their best work. The TI Diversity Network brings together more than a dozen different employee-led initiatives, as you can see here in this diagram. And all of these initiatives are open to everyone at TI. All employees are welcome to join any one of these initiatives. In summary, at TI, diversity is more than what is on the outside. We truly see beyond the typical definition and realize that every person brings a distinctive set of experiences to the workplace that allows him or her to contribute in a special way. And truly at TI, we believe diversity fuels innovation and makes our company stronger. the Black Employees Initiative actually kicked off a courageous conversation dialogue, and this has been a series of events. And this is very important to TI, especially within the last year with a lot of things that we've been seeing going on within the US and around the world. The courageous conversations have been discussing a lot of the social and economical injustices seen through what we would call systemic systems that prevent others from diverse groups from getting ahead. And so this is very important to TI. In fact, Rich Templeton participated in the initial courageous conversation that was kicked off. And you can see here a quote from Rich, how he values this. And what initial outcome from this was that TI actually pledged $1 million in grants to support racial equity. So in summary, diversity is very important at TI. That's seen way up to Rich Templeton's level. So diversity, inclusion, and equity, or DEI, is one of TI's values.
So Anthony, I'll probably touch on kind of your question a little bit here, but I'm Matt Halden. I'm on the technical sales representative track, and I've been up here officially working in the Seattle office for about 4 months, and wasn't too far out of your guys' shoes a couple of years ago or a year and a half. So kind of know where you guys are at, and happy to answer kind of more of your specific questions in the breakout rooms. But on the response to COVID-19, it's been great. I mean, we're all figuring this out together, but I think that still being able to maintain 5 internships just for our office alone, and there were more across the country for a specific role, was an awesome thing to see, and I think kind of speaks to how TI kind of handles things and prepares for these situations. And on top of that too, they gave us a stipend to actually optimize our work setup. I don't think it's any secret that when all this happened, I think we all had to kind of adapt a little bit and find a new monitor, a new desk, or even get a mouse to try to do these things. And I was able to optimize my work setup and make things much more easy for myself. And there are folks, and we're lucky to still have our jobs too, which I think is something I don't like to take for granted. And we are headquartered in Dallas, and there are also folks that their jobs need to be in person, and there are and we're still manufacturing, so keeping things on with very important safety measures on that front too. And in terms of like the personal anecdote that I kind of wanted to touch on is, I ended up moving up here to Seattle 4 months ago. I didn't have to, but I was extremely supported, and TI helped me along the complete way, right? My girlfriend's a nurse. We were long distance, so she moved up here, had to be in person for her job. So I decided to move up here concurrently. And I've been working remote still. I know there's some folks who haven't moved up here yet and are still working out of the East Coast. So even though that they're 3 hours ahead, they're still doing that too. So it's really flexible. We're still hiring, and we get to still talk to our customers. And with 80,000 parts, you need a big sales force. We talk to almost every customer who does electronics in the world that you could potentially matter. So we're a vital part of the program, and happy to be able to continue that. And that's just a little bit of my personal anecdote of kind of how I see things. But it's been great. Like I said, still figuring things out together, but I know that there's still been new rotators and interns starting, like I mentioned, and they're still having good experiences. And I think we all can't wait to have some extent to be in person in some way, shape, or form. But still happy to be here. And those are the few data points that I have for this one.
So I just because of time, since we're running out of time here. The quote that we got to put in the end, gratuitous quote for TI, that we refuse to leave the world as we found it. But as we mentioned, you can find anything here, from hands-on experience to training to mentoring, and that access to your leadership is great. We get to talk to our managers all the time, and I'm personally friends with my managers, so that's always been a big plus for me. As we go into the breakout rooms, just want to leave this up for you guys. Here's degrees and roles that we offer. We leave a lot of different things, but the big one is usually electrical engineering, computer engineering, or anything related to that are the bigger ones. Cool.
Okay, thank you all so much for being here. I think it shows a lot for your company that so many of you were able and wanted to take time out to, you know, turn around and help some of us little guys over here. So I have made some breakout rooms. Unfortunately, we did lose a few people after 6 because clubs love to meet on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And I'm hoping that when I put everyone into breakout rooms, your voices will all go with your faces. If they don't, just pop back out and like wave at me, and then I'll try to make sure that you get it the right one with your face and your sound. Also, for any of our students, if you have any questions or you know anyone who's going to watch the recording and then they want to contact these guys, if you want to email the IEEE email or my personal one is on our website, and I can get you in contact with anybody. With that, I'm going to open breakout rooms, and then you're all just welcome to leave from there if you'd like to. And yeah, thank you all for being here.